about guns for real men. Hey everyone, Dylan Schumacher, Citadel Defense, and we are here today to talk about my Nephilim Slayer. I don't think I came up with that term actually. I think I heard that from a Risky Christie post at one point, but I really liked it, so I'm totally going to steal it. This is my 308 rifle. It's the only 308 rifle I own, and I have recently put out a chest rig designed specifically for my 308 friends. And during the testing of that, which I went through several variations of that, I obviously, I've owned this gun for years, never really shot it a ton. So I did some updating to this rifle during the testing of that chest rig, because I was out using it and shooting my 308 and, et cetera, right? So I thought it might be helpful, or at least interesting, I hope so, to kind of go through this rifle and talk about what I did to it, how it works, and what I found helpful for me. I know there aren't that many of us out there that are using the 308, right? 95% of us, right, are going to default to a 5.56 gun with good reason. That being said, I think there is a wonderful place for the 308 rifle. It's a great caliber. It's been around for a very long time. It's done a lot of work. And I think that there are ways to help set up a modern rifle, in my limited experience with the 308, that make it more conducive to how we do things now. So we're gonna go through my gun, and hopefully it inspires you, gives you some ideas, maybe not, and we'll go from there. So here we go. So starting up top here, we have the Dead Air Sandman K-Can. I picked this can for two reasons. One, I like the Dead Air Sandmans. I know that they're not as in vogue these days or something, for reasons that are somewhat mysterious to me, but whatever. But I'm a big fan of it. I've run that can on multiple things. I like running it on my longer guns, right? Because it's a K-Can, so it's gonna be shorter, it's gonna have less weight. Really, I have it here to tame the beast. This isn't to give me like excellent sound suppression or anything like that. This is just to tame the concussive force coming out of a 308. And it does that. Obviously you have to still wear ears and stuff like that, but I'm a fan of this can on this gun. We're cutting weight as much as we can, and we are mitigating, or just taming that beast. That's the best way to say it, to contain all of the concussive blasts and forces, and it makes it much more enjoyable and comfortable to shoot. So I try to shoot suppressed, especially on rifles, whenever I can, and this is just a winner for me. I also really like the lockup system on the Dead Air Sandmans. I really like their ratchet system. I think it's super solid, never had any problems with it. Very happy about that. I usually run the Dead Air Sandman S on my kind of go-to 5.56 gun. So. Rail's nothing special. It's a PSA rail. Served me fine. Over here, this is a Surefire. I will say, see how far back I have this mounted, right? I get a lot of barrel shadow. I'm probably gonna swap that out. This is just a light that I had around, and so I tossed it on here, right? And I don't like running the switches on the Surefires. They don't work as well. So that'll probably change at some point. But for right now, that's a light that's on there. So at least there's something, right? Just a standard Magpul foregrip here. I have found that when I'm patrolling and stuff, having a foregrip like that is really helpful, because eventually I'll end up resting the rifle on my kit, at some point or another, and it just gets tiring. And if you're constantly holding your gun, with that grip right there, or that grip, it's not as conducive, because it puts your wrist at a weird angle, but for whatever reason that doesn't. So this is much more comfortable after you've been walking for a couple hours. So that's primarily why that's there. Yeah, it's a hand stop for shooting and stuff, but it's primarily for walking around with a gun in long stretches of time. I found these big foregrips are just much more comfortable. So coming down here, this is just a QD mount on some sling. I don't remember whose sling this is. This might be a Blue Force gear. It's like a Vickersy knockoff. I honestly don't remember. The one thing I will say about this sling is it has lots of adjustment, which is nice, and it has a little bit thicker pad. So I don't know, I bought that years ago, but it's just been, I thought this is the gun I'm gonna use it on, right? Long gun, lots of adjustment, maybe the padding will help me on the heavier gun. I don't know, it's worked out fine so far. I don't like that it has a bunch of extra strap coming off. but it's the one I have. Maybe I'll replace it eventually. I'm a big fan. So when I set this up, I tried to set this up as much as I could for how I set up most of my guns, right? So I like the short 2-point system, right? One on the end of the receiver and one on the front, or excuse me, the back of the rail. And I like that system a lot. I've had a lot of success with it. It's the most comfortable for me. So, you know, some people would try to set it up end to end, right? And I totally get that and I understand that. And if that's you, you run it that way. But I wanted to run this as much as I would run a normal fighting rifle. So I have it set up that way. For the optic, that's just an Aimpoint Pro. That's the very first optic I ever bought, ever. It's served me faithfully. I've had it around for a long time. It's bounced around to multiple different guns. So it's on this gun now. I did get this SKD 2.26 optic riser thing to add in here, right? So you can disassemble the mount that the Aimpoint Pro comes with and put a spacer in, so you get a lot of, I mean, it's clownishly high, let's be honest. Riser here, right? So it's super high. And that is helpful. It's helpful because I can access it with nods. It's helpful because, you know, if you see my head doesn't really have to move. Like, I don't have to dip my head to the gun. I really can just put it there. Maybe it moves a little bit. I guess you'll have to be the judge. But I think, you know, I think it's pretty good. So I'm a fan of that. It just makes shooting easier. And it was cheap. It was like 40 bucks. So it was a pretty simple upgrade to get that 2.26, you know, rise. And so I went with that. I don't have any backup irons on here. I absolutely have room for them, so I could toss them on there. But honestly, these days, I'm more and more just kind of meh about backup irons. The bolt is just the PSA bolt. I haven't found like a really good 308 bolt yet. So if you know of one, you can recommend one to me. I'm totally open to it. But that's just the PSA bolt that I have in there right now. I think I found one, but it was like $400 or something. And that just, for the amount I shoot 308, that didn't seem worth it. So again, I'm totally open to bolt recommendations here. The charging handle I did swap out because I hate PSA charging handles. And I think this is a Warhammer charging handle, but I like it. It's got a very firm latch here, and I've been a big fan of that. On the inside here, I did swap out the spring. So I got a Springco spring. I got their 308 recommended spring. I believe it's the orange. And then I also got a more weighty buffer. So I got the 5.6 ounce 308 buffer in there. And I can't remember which company is that specifically, but there are multiple 308 buffers out there, right? I just got the heaviest one I could. Because really I was trying to tame the beast on this thing. Again, it was chonky, right? So I wanted as much as a really stiff spring. I wanted a heavy buffer. And then I went out and I tuned it. And that actually worked out pretty well. This one does have an adjustable gas block. And so I tuned that, and that's been a lot better. Before then, I was getting a lot of reliability issues. It was stovepiping. That's the word I'm trying to come up with, sorry. It was stovepiping a lot. And after I tuned it, you know, lo and behold, right, the adjustable gas block is there for a reason. And so I adjusted it, and it works great now. Big fan of that. I did swap out the handle. This came with a just an A2 style grip thing from the factory, and I didn't like that. I wanted a more, you know, modern grip. So I believe this is a BCM. Big fan of that. I do have a Radian safety on here. The safety I had on there was fine. There's nothing wrong with it from the factory, but when I swapped the handle, it got weird. It got super stiff, so I just put the Radian in there. Now it's much better. Plus, it's a dually, right? So that's cool. Trigger, I did have some issues with the trigger from PSA. It worked fine for the first like 50 or 60 rounds, and then it would like not, the gun wouldn't go back on safe, and I don't know. I took a couple pictures, sent it to PSA, and they sent me a new trigger pack, popped it in and out, no problem. So that was helpful. Thank you, PSA, for that. So on this trigger, it's actually pretty nice. It's a 2-stage trigger. I mean, so it's a first pull right to the wall, and then a pretty clean break. I mean, it doesn't really take much after that to get the break. So resets really crisp, and then you're right there at the wall again. So it's actually a nice trigger from the factory. Again, that was the replacement one that they sent me, right? But same as the first one, just more functional. And so I've been super happy with that. And this is just some Magpul buttstock that I threw on here. It came with a much more robust, beefy buttstock, but I just wanted more of a fighting rifle buttstock, so I went with this. So this is really my Nephilim Slayer gun, right? This is what I'd take if we had to really do big boy things or something like that. And I've tried to modernize it or AR-15 it as much as is possible, because I think that's kind of how I generally am used to shooting guns and useful, and it's a 308, so you know it's going to do some work, right? But that's mine. Hope that gives you some ideas, and hope that gives you some ways to think about how you set your rifle, specifically your 308 up. Do brave deeds and endure.